All right, peace and welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, we got a lot to talk about. First, let me share with you the latest in the case of the 6 white Mississippi officers who pled guilty to torture of 2 men shooting 1. We'll give you the latest on that case. Also, can we talk about a new video that is going to be circulated to students in schools in the state of Florida that shows an animated Frederick Douglass saying that slavery was a compromise. We'll share with you the latest in that situation. Plus, we got Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget, MD, checking in. And she's got something to talk about eating disorders, how there is a rise of eating disorders among Black college students. We're very, very serious conversation. So, folks, stay with us. We got a lot to talk about. Join us in the conversation at YouTube on Roland Martin's chat. And let's get going. It's Happy Monday. It's here. It's happening. It's the culture right here on the Black Star Network. Let's go. All right, folks, welcome to the culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Happy Monday, folks. Happy Monday. Thank you so much for tuning in. This is the place where you can join us in the discussion. So make sure you check us out on a variety of streaming platforms as we are streaming live right now on our home website of blackstarnetwork.com, blackstarnetwork.com. That's right. You can find this show and so many other dope programs here on the Black Star Network. They are always rocking and rolling. And of course, courtesy of our founder, Brother Roland Martin. So make sure y'all go to blackstarnetwork.com. We're also, of course, streaming on our partner, Amazon News. You can find us on Roku TV, and you can check us out 24 hours a day, 7 days a week here on Amazon News. Just tell Alexa, bring up Black Star Network, and guess what? Boom! Here we go, folks. So big shout out to Amazon News for that. Also, we are streaming live on Facebook and on YouTube, and it's on our YouTube page under Roland Martin, where you can join us for the conversation as a culture crew member for the day. Or if you just say, you know what, I like being in this chat, which I think a lot of people do, then you can keep jumping on and offering your thoughts and offering your questions and your insights about all of the topics that we discuss here on the show. So it is one of the most engaging experiences online. So make sure y'all check us out on YouTube, on Roland Martin's YouTube page, and join us in the chat as we have these conversations. All right, folks, let's jump right in. First and foremost, let's talk a little bit about what's happening in the state of Mississippi as 6 white Mississippi officers, former police officers, officially plead guilty to the torture of 2 Black men. Take a look at this. This is coming from NBC News, folks. This is a very, very disturbing case as we share some of the details. So I will put some warnings out there for you. But these 6 white men who have referred to themselves as the Goon Squad. They have, these were former Mississippi law enforcement officers. They pleaded guilty in state court today to charges related to torturing 2 Black men in January, and according to the reports, all 6 had already admitted their guilt to the crimes in federal court. Take a look, folks. I'm at the second paragraph. It said prosecutors say the officers, who are all white, nicknamed themselves the Goon Squad because of their willingness to use excessive force and to cover up their malfeasance, including the attack that ended with one victim, Michael Corey Jenkins, being shot in the mouth. Now, Keenan, when you get a chance, bro, just bring up those pictures of those 6 former police officers when we can. But the point is, folks, that these men were operating, of course, as law enforcement officers, and they went in and did a horrible deed. I want to share with you very quickly what happened. Why was this case such a hidden case until recently, and how we're just breaking up squads like this? Take a look at this. This is the other thing that's reported. This is coming from the prosecutor as to what actually happened back on January that led to this moment today. Take a look. On January the 24th, The officers forcefully entered a house without a warrant, and they handcuffed and assaulted Michael Corey Jenkins and his friend Eddie Terrell Parker with stun guns, a sex toy, and other objects, folks. Here are the pictures of those 6 white officers. At the hearing Monday, the prosecution said that the now former officers kicked in the doors of the victim's home and immediately began a 90-minute torture session, which they told the men to, quote, stop taking advantage of a white woman who lived there, according to the prosecutor. The officers mocked the 2 men with racial slurs throughout their ordeal, repeatedly shocked them electricity volts via tasers, assaulted them with a vibrator, poured chocolate and syrup over their faces, and then devised a cover-up after a game of Russian roulette went bad and one of the victims was shot in the mouth, according to the prosecution. I'm gonna just let this marinate for y'all. 6 white police officers. There they are, right there. King, let's do the wide shot. Let's do the wide shot of these. I don't want them to see my face. They see my face. I want you to see them. Look at these men. Look at these men, y'all. And crew, I want to get your take on this. Just tell me if you're in the area of down in Mississippi, familiar with this story, what your thoughts are around this. The other part about this is that the 6 officers schemed to plant drugs and a gun on one of the men and concocted a story that Jenkins was shot because he resisted and went for an officer's gun, justifying the shooting. The officer's story, according to the reports, fell flat, and each of the men pleaded guilty. Now, according to one of the victims, Mr. Eddie Terrell Parker, he said, quote, it's a long time coming. We're not sitting here fighting for nothing. We're fighting for all. Justice was served. And let me give you the names of these 6 men. I don't think we need to really know the names, right? But I guess it's important. But this is a situation, folks, that just goes to show us that we still got a lot of work that needs to be done when it comes to police reform. All right, crew, share your thoughts on this. What's your take on this? As folks are checking in, I see my pastor, Pastor Damon Blissett, my sister, Robin Welch, Heather Stevenson. Good afternoon. Heather, you said sick. Absolutely, it is sick. Thank you, Heather, for checking and being part of the crew today. McCole, my sister, McCole Spicer, you said what was done to those brothers was demonic, absolute evil. Facts. Absolutely. Burlaw, you said, who was the white woman to them? Good question, Burlaw. Have no idea. Don't even know. Jim Chavez. Jim, thank you for checking in. You said pour chocolate and milk to waterboard them, not just mess up their faces. Royal Brooklyn, you checked in, my brother. Good to hear from you. You said, I've lowered my expectations when it comes to people of late. That way, when stuff goes down, I'm not really surprised. Whew. That's a harsh one, Real Brooklyn. But I understand. That's the crazy part, brother. I understand. When you think about the depravity, think about how people treat other people, whether you people in power or not in power. I mean, when you think about this, it does hit you like that. I'm right there with you. Chris Customs, it's Kyrus Customs. Let me make sure I'm hoping I'm saying that correctly. Kyrus Customs, you said, happened in my county, Rankin County. This is interesting. This is interesting. And this all happened today. So this is the latest news around these 6 Mississippi former law enforcement officers. Let me see. Le Poetris, you checked in. Good to see you. You say they should never get out of jail. Do unto them what they did to the victims. C. Peter Morgan, checking in. Thank you so much, C. Peter Morgan. You checked in and said the police could use a moral conscience. Facts. Pauline, my sister, it's always good to hear from you, Pauline. You said, Pauline Hurt, you say they must get some serious crime for this crime. They must get some serious time for this. This is horrible. This is law enforcement. This is law enforcement. This is why we're still in the fight, folks. This is why we're still in the fight. And even though we may not be hearing about too much of this, and I know Big Brother Rolly, he's always highlighting these cases. And I know, there's going to be more coverage of this. He's always highlighting these cases. But a lot of folks tend to believe it's like out of sight, out of mind. There are so many stories. There are so many stories like that may not be as egregious and demonic and evil as this, but there's so many stories of abuse that where police are at the center of the story, where their abuse is happening while folks are in their custody. There's still a lot of stories out there. And then I can't even talk about, let's not even think about this group. Think about all the past stories that people have undergone or, experiences that they have, and they just never talk to anyone. So that's what gets me about this situation. There are just so many stories around this, not just this one situation, but in terms of police brutality. I mean, these guys busted up in a home with no warrant, kicking in the door. I want us to just take a moment and just think about that, and how frightening, how disorienting, how abusive that situation can be. Traumatic, that situation. You chilling in your home, you in your own home, minding your own business, and 6 white police officers. Let's show the pictures again, please, Keenan. 6 white police officers. Look at these guys. Take a look, y'all. Look at these guys. These are not small guys. They busted in your home, violate your civil rights, torture you. Then they end up shooting one of them. My sister, Janelle Fields. Janelle, you said, police behavior won't change until the foundations of law enforcement are reborn to recognize humanity over property value. Right. Come on. Brother Ray, thank you for checking in. You said, Farajii, my dude, good day to you. Good day, Brother Ray. Thank you for checking in. Johnny Davis, you say, first of all, they are criminals. Secondly, they are not men. I feel you on that. I feel you on that. Swag Kid, checking in. You said not satisfied at all. It should have been more. How did the same system that they come from get to judge them? The entire system is a failure. And Robert Shields, you checked in and said, and they also planted drugs at the home. So they do all of that. They bust into your door, bust into your house. They violate your civil rights. They torture you, damn near about to kill you. They humiliate you, using all types of objects against you. Then they plant drugs on you so they could justify their wicked behavior. And then they lie about the whole situation to cover up their evilness. We got to take a quick pause, bro. But this goes to show us 2023. This happened in January of 2023. There's still a lot of work to be done. The fight for justice, the fight for police reform, none of that has died down. We may not be talking much about it. You may not see people in the streets protesting against it, but it's still happening. We got a lot of work to do. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. Stay with us. It's The Culture. We're just getting started here on the show, so it's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We just shared with you that 6 Mississippi law enforcement officers, former law enforcement officers, have pleaded guilty, to torturing 2 black men in January of 2023, in January of this year, folks. Their deeds are just it's nothing short of just straight evil. Inhumane, to say the least, as they tortured these brothers for 90 minutes, busting into the home, torturing them. They end up shooting one brother in the mouth and then trying to lie about the whole situation, planting drugs in the home to justify their lie. But they did this for 90 minutes. I want to go back to what y'all are saying, crew, and joining me in the conversation as we're streaming live on YouTube right now. Look under Roland Martin's YouTube page and jump in the chat as you can be a part of today's Culture crew. Let me go to my man, Bro Brooklyn, because I think what you said was key, bro. You said, Farajii, I believe this world needs more than police reform. We are heading into an abyss that we cannot back out of. It is written, my friend. It is written. I couldn't agree with you more, dear brother. Brooklyn, I could not agree with you more. It's heading down that road. And it's not just like a slow heading down into abyss. It's like on a rocket ship. Yeah, and a rocket ship, bro. Police reform. Police reform has to, if you got to teach the police how to treat people with humanity in a humane way, that's crazy. And this is the same group of people that are supposed to protect and serve us. Let's say that in the local. Here in LA, it's right on the card, to protect and serve. That is insane to me, y'all. Absolutely insane. And so and then people wonder why we don't have a healthy relationship with the police. Because see, if you like me, and I feel like a lot of you are in the same space, emotional space that I'm in right now, you read and you hear stories like this, even though you may not have a bad personal experience with the police, you may not have been pulled up, you may not have had your house busted into, but this plays on your psyche, on how you see the people who are supposed to protect and serve you. So it's like we all feel the trauma from this one incident. Again, it's not because it's not an individual incident. We know abuse happens, but we all feel the trauma. We all feel it. And it's a blessing that we do feel it, because that shows us that now we are much more in a better place. We are much more connected to each other, right? But we all feel the trauma of this. Taylor, you checked in, and good to hear from you, Taylor. You said shot in the mouth and live. The court really needs to consider that point and the possibility. Oh, absolutely. It could have been worse. And now you got to look at the cases, and in a situation like this, where they're the goon squad, you got these 6 white men. That means that any arrest that they may have made as a squad would have to be reevaluated, especially the arrest of black men and black boys. That means that whoever, they had to be in existence for some time. This is not a new situation. In Baltimore, we had a group of police officers, that were rogue officers, called the Gun Trace Task Force. And everybody knew that the Gun Trace Task Force did not use proper protocol in dealing with cases and going after people. And I'm saying people knew, either the streets knew, or into some ways those in the department knew, right? But nobody did enough to stop it until the activities of the Gun Trace Task Force started to come to light, as people started to step forward saying that their civil rights were violated. And all of those cases that they were on had to be reviewed, and some of those cases had to be dropped. I mean, it just creates a ripple effect. You feel what I'm saying? So you got to go through all of the cases of the goon squad down in Mississippi, and then you got to question whether the arrests that they made were good or justified. The people that they had on these cases, you got to go through that all of the details, and say if they covered, say they were on 100 cases. Look how many lives have been affected by the evilness of 6 men. Cindy D, you said, my Cindy, thank you so much for checking. You said police are trained to protect and serve property, not us, Farajii. Lepoetress, you said until the police themselves call out and weed out folks like this and stop giving them a pass, nothing will change. These police unions need to stop upholding cops like these. There it is right there, Lepoetress. There it is right there. There it is right there. You can get them mad at the commissioner, the police chief, the captain, the lieutenant. But the number one obstacle facing police officers from removing the protection, the hedge around from police officers, police unions. Police unions. They set the policy. They are built to protect officers in cases like this. They're not going to throw officers. I haven't came across any police union that will throw one of their own under the bus. These police unions are brought in. The officers are given attorneys. The officers are told not to speak or to get their stories together. I mean, it's a real tragedy, a very real tragedy. It's like a brotherhood to protect the officers at the expense of the people. So we're looking at a real serious situation here, folks. A very real situation. And there's so much. And I was at a reparations rally here in Los Angeles over the weekend. And when we talk about reparations, folks, and then we're going to take another quick pause. When we talk about reparations, this is part of the conversation. This reparations isn't about just getting money and, like somebody has to pay from the damage that not that we experienced from chattel slavery over 400 years ago, over 450 years ago. What about the injustice and the damage done to Black people in this country from the police departments, from the current institutions of our government? Somebody has to pay. America has to pay for that. because, you know, in the court of law, you have what they call punitive damages. These are the additional punitive damages, right? Like the additional damages that's done to a victim, right? That's beyond just one particular part of the case. It's like you gotta take into account the residual effect of that. What's the punitive damage that Black people should get for being under the tyranny and oppression of police departments in every single state and every single county, of being under that tyranny and oppression? What number can you put out? See, the number gets too big. It gets too big. So when we talk about even the reparations piece, it's not even just about, oh, chattel slavery. It's about now. Who's going to right the wrongs now that's done? So that's where we are right now. Pauline, you said all I can say is Lord have mercy. Come on now. Absolutely. Taylor, you brought up the point. Civil suits going to follow this? I would. Civil suits should follow this. But again, that's all well and good. That's a civil suit that might bring some sort of, you know, I don't even know what the word the best. I mean, it might bring some sort of sense of justice, but you still have officers. Some of these officers, they get all the way until they get to a grand jury, and then they finally get removed from the police department, or if there's some extenuating circumstances, they finally get removed from the police department. And it shouldn't be like that. My sister, Karen Connors. Karen, good to hear from you. And we got to bring Karen back on because she's making some big moves here in the city of Los Angeles. And I'll share you that. I'm going to let her share that more with us. But she said, police reform must have firm consequences and loss of pension. Hate crimes are traumatizing. Facts. The victims will suffer from PTSD forever. We wear the emotional scars of this wickedness against us. Facts. And the question becomes, who's going to pay for that? Not talking about money, but who's going to be held responsible for that? Who's going to feel the brunt of the consequences for that? Great point, Karen. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. So, you know, this case may be looking like there might be a semblance of justice, but there's still a long road for our two brothers that were at the center of the case. And so our hearts and prayers go out to Michael Corey Jenkins and Eddie Terrell Parker, because they got to rebuild their sense of self after such a dehumanizing experience. And don't talk to us about, you know what I'm saying, like, oh man, just, you know, kind of move on. It happened in the past. Somebody's got to pay. Somebody, some system, some department got to pay for that. Look, I got to take another quick pause. When we come back, I'm going to share with you some other stuff. So stay with us. It's the culture here on the Black Star Network.
Pull up a chair, take your seat. The Black Tape with me, Dr. Greg Carr, here on the Black Star Network. Every week, we'll take a deeper dive into the world we're living in. Join the conversation only on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to the culture here on the Black Star Network. All right, let me get to this other piece because this story here, and then, you know, we got a couple of moments before we get to Dr. Bridget MD. But I just wanted to throw this story out there as we are having this conversation about what we just talked about, and more importantly, as we continue to have the discussion about the attack on Black history that's happening all across this country. It's a slow grind, slow build, but the momentum is moving forward in this attack. So take a look. I want you to check this out. There is a company that produces kids videos. The company is called PragerU Kids Videos. It's an educational entertainment company. And they got these set of videos from a right-wing advocacy group, Slant. They created a video where they talk about chattel slavery. And one of their most recent videos, which is making the rounds on social media right now, is called Leo and Layla Meet Frederick Douglass. And in that video, a pair of children go back in time and meet an animated depiction of Frederick Douglass. In the video, Frederick Douglass, an abolitionist, as we know, he devoted his life to anti-slavery efforts, describes slavery as a compromise between the founding fathers and the Southern colonies for the benefit of the United States. The depiction also criticizes fellow abolitionist William Lloyd Garrison. So they've taken a picture of one of our great anti-slavery abolitionists, and they retooled his face and his views to make it seem as if slavery was just a compromise, not a violation of human rights, not a crime a crime, but it was a compromise. Y'all remember when I said, remember that the story when I said that Governor Ron DeSantis down in Florida had challenged Vice President Kamala Harris to come and talk to him about the Black History program? And I said, if we don't keep the fire going, this thing is going to continue to be the case, right? This retweaking of history will continue to happen. This is the example I was thinking about. Now, I didn't know that this was coming, but now it's opening the door for that to happen, because this very same company that are producing these videos of Frederick Douglass saying slavery is a compromise, the CEO of the company, Marissa Straight, announced last month that the group is partnering with the state of Florida as an education vendor to provide supplemental lessons. So this company is going to be working with the Florida Department of Education to provide supplemental lessons to teach our children that slavery was a compromise. Here's what the statement coming from the Florida Department of Education said, in part. Let's post screen quote 2, please, Keenan. The Florida Department of Education reviewed PragerU Kids and determined the materials aligns to Florida's revised civics and government standards. PragerU Kids is no different than many other resources which can be used as supplemental materials in Florida schools at district discretion. Come on, y'all. Come on, crew. Come on, crew. Come on, crew. Look at this. Look at this. Here's the look. See? When you start retweaking history, especially dropping seeds in the minds of our children. Come on. And see, some of us say, well, like this thing is going to die down. No, this thing is ramping up, y'all. That's why I said that you got to fight against this. We got to fight against this every chance that we get, because now they're bringing in. Imagine your child seeing this. Now you see this and I see this and just a screenshot. We might be like, oh, this looks like it might be an educational video for the children. We put it on for our babies. We thinking, we sitting back and we playing a video. Then what the hell is this? And your children, they can't filter out what's true and what's not true. They just happy to learn. Now this is propaganda. This is straight up propaganda. And this is what some advocacy groups down in Florida are saying, that this level of propaganda is dangerous. And it is. It is. If you can't tell the truth and you want to become a well-dressed lie, that's propaganda. And of course, it's going to be a problem. Someone tweeted this out. They said, this is some of the most dangerous and false propaganda I've ever seen. The description of Frederick Douglass in his animation is a flat out lie. And the concept that children should be learning from this should scare everyone. Another person who was on social media and saw the video, they noted, this video bastardizes the essence of Frederick Douglass. It's insulting for me as a former history government teacher. I can't imagine how devastating it must feel for Black people to see this dehumanizing curriculum implemented or continued in Florida public schools. When the CEO of PragerU Kids, Marissa Straight, was asked about how this educational supplementary lesson could potentially include material that could be deemed offensive, she said, quote, I challenge those same people to look through every word that Scholastic has printed or every word that Brain Pop has published and tell me that you're not going to find something that you are not offended by. But you know, I completely stand by what's in our videos. I actually think that our Frederick Douglass video is a great one. Come on, crew. This is where we are, man. This is where we are. So if we don't disrupt what's happening here, folks, this thing could continue to grow. Cindy, you checked in. You said now they're doing this in Arkansas, changing AP minority classes. The video is a white ring joke. I'm definitely insulted by it. Thank you, Cindy. Tammy Richmond, thank you for checking in. You said we as Blacks should form a lawsuit on the tape of Florida violating my existence as a human. Is there a civil rights lawyer on this chat? I live in Tampa, Florida. Now that's what I'm saying. School starts in about a week and a half from now, right? And about next week, school starts out here in LA. But school starts like we right around the corner. Can you imagine your child saying, Mommy, Daddy, I came home. We saw this great video of Frederick Douglass, and he was saying that slavery is a compromise. You're talking to your 9, your 10, Lord, slavery is a compromise, Dad, Mom. Jacqueline Boateng, you said the Black judge on the school curriculum is a member of the Heritage Foundation who gave us Clarence Thomas. Facts. Nigel Keenan, I hope I'm saying that right. This is definitely disappointing. Absolutely, it is. It is. So it's ongoing. It's ongoing, which is why we can't allow a situation to the point where we're just going along to get along, thinking that the government is going to say something. And yeah, I mean, the vice president can say certain things, but nobody's stopping the state of Florida. Nobody's stopping companies like this from producing this. I mean, you heard the quote from the CEO of the company. She said, I stand by it. It is what it is. You stand by a lot. You stand by the fact that you don't mind retwisting and fixing history for your political and personal agenda. And that is dangerous, folks. That's not just dangerous to our children. That's dangerous to the principles of history. History stands on its own, whether you agree with it or not, whether you like it or not. History stands on its own. But now we're at the point in our sojourn in this country, and we're at this point in our culture that if you don't like a certain part of our history, you could just reteach it in a way that appeals to you. And guess what? Boom, that's the new history. Robin Welch, my sister, you said, what are Florida people doing to push back on this? We got to see. Maybe we need to have a conversation is, how is Black Florida doing? Because I really want to know. When my sister Suzette Speaks comes on here on Wednesday, maybe we just talk to her and say, hey, Suzette, what's going on? Florida's a battleground. It's a hot state right now, but other states are moving, are falling themselves into following this pattern. We have to see what kind of pushback is happening. But I just wanted to bring it to your attention, crew. Just wanted to bring your attention. Era Danish, thank you for checking in. Era, you said we as Black people need to have our own schools. We can't expect the present day system will ever do right by us. Facts. 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 And then Tammy, you checked back in and you said, I don't hear fire in Black Florida. And I ain't shaking my head because I think that our people are weak. I'm shaking my head because we got some work to do, boy. Woo! If Black Florida is trying to figure it out, then Black America needs to step in. I'm gonna say that one more time, then we're gonna take a quick pause. If Black Florida is trying to figure it out, then Black America needs to have a plan to step in. That's where we are right now. And that's just how we got to be. Because if somebody's a little weak in the chain, then the rest of the chain, you don't just stop being a chain. You try to figure out ways to help the weak chain get strong. Figure out how the weak chain gets strong. And if, as my brother Willie Frazier checked, that Black Florida parents are asleep, if Black Florida parents are asleep, Black America parents got to wake them up, brother Willie. Right? I know you agree with me on that, bro. If Black Florida parents are asleep, Black America parents got to wake them up. So that's the space we in. We got to figure some stuff out, y'all. This is part of our culture. But more importantly, when it starts affecting the babies on this level, you're talking about, see, this is, I promise we're going to take a quick pause, but I want us to think about the historical context of this, because every Black leader in this country, they have always had a part of their agenda, their program. All those Black leaders, historically and even up to the present day, always have a component to teach babies, to retrain, reprogram babies, right? To offer a different teaching to Black children. And you know why? Because it's easier to teach a child the wrong thing than it is to teach grown people the wrong thing. Because you got to challenge, you got to, for some grown people, it's just like, no, let me just plant this seed. I'm not going to get the current generation. I'm going to get the next generation. It's easier to point that, to just drop that seed. That we gain personal benefit from slavery, personal skills, and this is a compromise. And oh, your history wasn't as bad and traumatic. Oh, and if your family and friends talk about PTSD from from being enslaved, oh, they don't have PTSD. Oh, your people were never oppressed. No. And you imagine sitting at the dining room table talking to, Black folks talking. We have Thanksgiving is coming up. We all talking about what's going on. And your child say, well, I mean, why is everybody upset? It ain't like Black people were hurt during slavery, See what I'm saying? See what I'm saying? Like, that's where the ball gets dropped. Boom, right there. It's not the child's fault because they're children. Guess whose fault it is? Because we're not on the job. We got to be on the job. And I'm sorry, we got to be on the job, folks. Like I said, if one part of the chain is weak, then the other part of the chain got to figure out how to make it strong. If there's a city or a state that's weak, Black America got to make it strong. We got to be on the job for ourselves and for our babies' mind and for the future of our people. got to take a quick pause. When we come back, let's check in with our very sister, our resident doctor, Dr. Bridget, MD. Let's talk a little bit about reclaiming your wellness, folks. There's still a lot to get to, so stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punching!
I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. I'm your host, Farajii Muhammad. Thank you so much for tuning in and being a part of the conversation. Folks, if you missed the first hour, make sure you go and be a part of Team Replay for the first hour, as we talked about the latest in the case of those 6 white Mississippi former law enforcement officers who pleaded guilty to torturing of 2 black men. We gave you the latest in that situation. Also, we talked about a controversial video that's making its rounds on social media that shows that Frederick Douglass, an animated Frederick Douglass, saying that slavery is a compromise. So we kind of break that down and the implications of that. So again, if you missed the first hour, make sure you go be a part of Team Replay. Check us out on blackstarnetwork.com. Also, we are streaming live 24 hours a day, 7 days a week on Amazon News. And we, of course, if you sign up for us on Black Star Network, download the app for free. Sign up for us on YouTube under Roland Martin, and of course on Facebook on our YouTube page under Roland Martin. You will get notifications every time the show comes on, every time a program, whether it's RMU, The Culture, The Black Table, whatever dope show we have on the network comes up, you will be notified and you will have an opportunity to share your thoughts. So again, that is all happening, and we continue to appreciate your support. All right, folks, it is Monday. We check in with our resident family physician to talk to us a little bit about how we can keep our health and wellness in place, considering everything that we know is happening around us. So let's get another segment of this week's Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget, MD. All right, good afternoon, Doc. How are you?
Great. It's great to see you, Farajii. How are you?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Just getting through some of the racial stuff.
Yeah.
Trying to get my mind right from that, but I'm gonna put that to the side because you have another like dilemma that I think we need to talk about. And just for transparency, folks, when Dr. Bridget and I we talk about what's going on for a second, but when she brought this one up, I was like, we got to talk about this. No question in my mind. So let's talk about this big thing that's like this big elephant in the room that we have not discussed enough. I'm gonna say that, not to say we haven't discussed it at all, but something that we have not discussed enough.
Well, definitely not enough. I mean, we're at in August here. People are sending their kids back to college, getting kids ready to go back to high school or what have you. And we're often nervous about them making friends and, making their way in the world. However, eating disorders are a really big issue in America, but they're a surprisingly big issue even in Black America. And so I figured this would be a perfect opportunity to discuss this because many times it is unseen when it comes to if you go to the doctor and go in to talk about different issues, it is often unseen for Black Americans. And my first thought to you, Farajii, is when you think about eating disorders, the image that comes up probably isn't a young Black girl.
No. It's not.
Yeah. And so many times it tends to be a young white female is the person that we assume to have eating disorders. But the fact of the matter is, there are 28.8 million Americans that will have some sort of eating disorder in their lifetime. But they found that 50% Black women, Black teenagers are 50% more likely than white teenagers to exhibit bulimic behavior. So that's binging on food and then purging it back up. And so in a time where we're sending our kids off and they're going back into the world out of our direct care, we need to be mindful of this issue and what we can do about it.
So let's talk a little bit about this because I know that I actually know some women, some are in my family and some are just on friends level, that have suffered from eating disorders, whether it's anorexia or even bulimia, right? So Doc, first and foremost, because that may seem foreign to some people, especially now given the culture, but there is a lot of talk about the importance of body imaging and body shaming. There's a lot of conversation around that, of course. But where does this stem from, Doc? Like, what is going on within the person, whether it's male and female, because it actually can affect men too in different ways. But what's going on? How does a person get to the point where they say, you know what, they see themselves one way compared to how other people see them?
Absolutely. So it definitely tends to be a mismatch between their appearance and how they see themselves on the inside. But there are a lot of reasons how people get to this point. With anorexia, where you have a fear of eating or gaining weight, and you are extremely restrictive or excessive exercise, versus bulimia, where you end up having excessive amounts of food and then purging it up. In both cases, it's a way for them to control their environment. And so a lot of the reasons why Black women do not get diagnosed is because even that image of who a eating disorder patient is, young white female, even when Black girls come in or Black women come in into the office, many times we appear much different. That we tend to be that strong Black female image, the one who's taking on an excessive amount of pressure, but appears to be handling it well, is more likely to be the eating disorder patient versus someone that may appear to be having more difficulties coping with life's pressures. So number one, we don't look like our white counterpart when we come in. And then it's not only a way to control a stressful environment, but sometimes even, the other assumption is that, well, this is a disorder of the privileged. However, it is often something that arises from food scarcity. And that we have less food in our communities, that it starts out by a way of kind of getting more food out to our children and family and sharing, but then it becomes a way for us to control our environment. I bring it up as a college student because many times we send our kids off to college and we put them on these food plans, these meal plans, but we look at the pricing of it and we're like, well, do you have to eat 3-4 meals a day? Why don't we start with 2 or what have you? The kids get in there, they're dealing with stress. They feel limited. They don't want to put extra stress on their family. And that desire to control then can lead into eating disorders as well.
Doc, we got to take a quick pause, but I'm going to just be honest with you. You're the first person I actually heard say who described eating disorders in that context. I never thought about that, actually, that being the stresses of being a college student, the pressure, and this is unintentional, obviously, the unintentional pressure that family places on a college student, especially a Black college girl. You're the first person that put it in that context. I always thought it was something else, like a mental health condition.
It is. It's everyone has their own breaking point.
Okay.
How that is exhibited is different in everyone. This is one of those breaking points.
We're going to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation with Dr. Bridget, MD, as we get into the discussion about eating disorders and how it's more common than you think, especially among Black college-age girls. I want to get your take on this, crew. Join us in the conversation. We're streaming live, of course, on YouTube, Facebook. We will go to Roland Martin's YouTube page. Jump in the chat. Share your questions, your thoughts on this as we continue the conversation with Dr. Bridget on the other side. Stay tuned. We got a lot more to cover here on The Culture on the Black Star Network.
Folks, Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punches! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Support this man, Black Media. He makes sure that our stories are told.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America, Roland.
Stay black. I love y'all.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart. Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
I'm Farajii Muhammad, live from LA. And this is The Culture. The Culture is a two-way conversation. You and me. We talk about the stories, politics, the good, the bad, and the downright ugly. So join our community every day at 3 p.m. Eastern and let your voice be heard. Hey, we're all in this together. So let's talk about it and see what kind of trouble we can get into. It's The Culture, weekdays at 3, only on the Black Star Network.
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been checking in with our very own Dr. Bridget, MD, for this week's Reclaim Your Wellness segment, and we're focusing on eating disorders among Black college students, particularly among young Black women in college. And this is something that we don't talk too much about, but it is very, very real. It happens all over colleges, whether you're a college student at an HBCU or a predominantly white institution, a PWI. These things are happening, and we're finding that the number is actually going up. Let me just share with you very quickly, and then we're going to bring Dr. Bridget back into this. But I want to share with you folks just some of the latest data around this situation about eating disorders and how it's much more common than you think. Take a look at this. This is coming out of the University. I'm pulling up the information right now, folks. There we go. The UNC's Nutrition Research Institute, University of North Carolina Nutrition Research Institute. And this is what they said in their piece. They said, quote, studies show 9% of the US population, or 28.8 million Americans, will have an eating disorder in their lifetime, and eating disorders are among the deadliest mental illnesses, second only to opioid overdose, according to the ANAD, which is the National Association of Anorexia Nervosa and Associated Disorders, an organization that provides support for anyone struggling with an eating disorder. Folks, that is crazy. According to the National Eating Disorders Association, NEDA, eating disorders affect people from all demographics of all ethnicities at similar rate. People of color, especially African Americans, are significantly less likely to receive help for their eating issues.
Mm-hmm.
We're not even having a conversation. Less likely to receive help. Nearly 30 million people struggle with this. And we just don't talk enough about this.
You know,
we're not talking enough.
Is that when you're the problem that physicians have is that they're working on this stereotype as well, right? That they're expecting someone to come in and they look very tiny and skinny and, you know, kind of hectic and, you know, out of control. What can actually happen is that someone might come in, they might appear to be average weight, they might appear to be overweight. And what they'll end up doing is looking at what you weighed on the scale and commenting about your weight, your number, which actually might bring even more issues for this child, because now you're looking at their number, and however they might be feeling on the inside might be very different from how they might actually appear on the outside. Instead of actually having the conversation about how are you doing with your nutrition and eating, and, you know, I see this number, but what does that number actually mean to you? We are so underdiagnosed because we're not fitting a stereotype. But in reality, this is a problem for us, just like it is for anybody else. It's a problem of the rich and the poor. It is something that we're not even dealing with. And in this period of time, you know, hitting August and people going back to school, it's time to have a conversation.
I'm wondering, Doc, first, I want to get your take as to how do you have the conversation, right? How do you have the conversation? And you're a certified family physician. So do a person like yourself need, and of course not you, because you can't be in people's living rooms and kitchens, but does a certified family physician, should they be a part of that discussion as well? But I want to kind of get your take on that. But I do want to get a couple of comments from our crew here, because folks are checking in and talking about this. Here, let's talk about Talia Hall. Thank you for checking in. You said body shaming is becoming more prevalent among young people, so they are developing eating disorders. Excellent. I think this is, and I want to believe that that's the case. And Talia, I'm not saying that you're lying. I'm just saying, does the number support that assertion, Dr. Britton? That
body shaming is increasing?
Yeah, among young people.
Absolutely. So culturally, obviously, we are more, our physical appearance is probably more an issue now than it's ever been, right? We come out of this whole COVID Zoom era where everybody's looking at themselves more than ever. Plus, we're looking at very specific body typing now. So how we look and how diverse we are as a people, or in just as human beings is now less tolerated, and everyone's going to get something fixed or nipped or tucked or whatever. And so body shaming and not having this ideal, I hate to say it, Barbie body, but whatever that means to you, it is more of an issue. And the other assumption is that particularly in the Black community, when sometimes a more voluptuous look is appreciated, it doesn't mean that people are not feeling insecure about their body and trying to lose some weight to be able to even fit into that voluptuous, absolutely, minuscule type, waist for a more rounded, appearance and more hourglass appearance. It doesn't mean that that's not happening. And the assumption is, oh, if you want a big butt, you're probably not someone that would have an eating disorder. You might even have more of an eating disorder.
And that's the other part about it. That's the irony of it, is that people say, oh, if you're not super skinny, okay. But if you are curvy, if you are what we say thick, we don't think, oh, they could lose a couple of pounds, but they don't have an eating disorder.
Right. And that's not the case. Someone that has an eating disorder does not have always a particular look. People are used to what an anorexic person that is struggling might look like, but someone who is earlier on in their anorexia, someone that's a bulimic, someone who's a binge eater, restrictive eater, but they don't have a look. And that's what we need to get out of people's heads. So if you're waiting for your child to appear a certain way, they might never appear in a way that will give you a warning. So doctors need to know that, parents need to know that. So we have to listen more carefully to conversations and see how they respond to certain cues.
So that gives me a thinking that, our culture in Black families is that we always kind of go in on somebody if they look too thin or too fat. And we make jokes about it. Girl, you need to get that ass. Or girl, you boy, you look like you ain't eating days. So does that need to stop? Do we need to how do we affirm our children's weight? And I've seen this happen. I'm sure you've probably seen this too, Doc. I've seen this happen with girls and boys as young as 4 and 5 years old. We talking about their weight.
Yes.
At 4 and 5.
Yes.
Like they feed themselves and they pick out their own menus on what they eat, right? And it's like, I always think that's interesting. I'm like, well, who feeding them?
Exactly.
Adults.
Yeah.
So how do we have that? How does family affirm the weight of the children?
Unfortunately, I think something negative like this ends up happening. And that's what brings awareness for a lot of families. But in reality, you have to be aware that love that child and make sure that they love themselves no matter what their weight is, that their body was made beautiful no matter what that weight is, and that make sure that when we're talking about food, we focus on its nutritional value, then we focus on amount or how, what they're eating in particular. What is the nutritional value of it, right? How do you feel? How do you, more than how you physically appear? Because we have to start honoring our bodies the way God made them and being less worried about what box does it fill in our societal desires.
Absolutely.
Absolutely. So one thing that often happens, particularly with girls going to college, but with some of our young men as well, is that there's this idea of the freshman 15. And it's the 15 pounds that sometimes kids will gain once they're kind of out of their parents' realm and they're eating, they're staying up late, they're eating late at night, and they end up creating bad eating habits. And some kids are so afraid of that they will end up getting into a bad place under the stress, under the pressure. And this is just another stressor that they're experiencing while in college, and will end up getting into a bad place. So we really have to be more mindful of how we approach the subject and talk more about nutrition than we talk about the amount, and talk more about healthiness and wellness more than we talk about size.
Right. Absolutely, absolutely. I want to get one more comment in, and then we can take a quick pause. Let me see this here. Cindy D, you said those issues were huge in the 80s. It's all about how to handle peer pressure and a way to get in where you fit in. You don't like what you see in the mirror. It's all about self-love.
It is. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the fact of the matter is when your child is 17 and 18, they're supposed to still be gaining weight. They're still growing and developing. So when you drop off your kid at college and you see, depending on how far away, you're seeing them a couple months later, sometimes for some people 6 to 8 months later, and they've gained weight, we don't want to make them feel bad about that because they're still growing and developing. The question is, are they being healthy? What is their wellness? What is their balance? And then supporting them in their journey of becoming an adult.
Yeah, because I mean, at the end of the day, Doc, it's like we're making something natural unnatural.
Mm-hmm.
We're making food the enemy here.
Absolutely.
And you know, it's disheartening to say the least that you know, our children, the next generation is suffering like this. But I think a part of it is because of our traditional Black culture. Like, we do have the power to change how we talk about food, how we look at dieting. You know, if a person, for example, is gluten-free, lactose, vegan, vegetarian, they get ostracized by their families in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? When we're talking about, you just make the point that it's about nutrition. And if people make different life choices, nutritional life choices based upon, you know, what versus what they have grown up with. And I've been there and I've seen it time and time again. If you grew up eating all manner of just any and everything, and then you get to a certain level of consciousness and you're like, no, I'm gonna refrain from that. I'm gonna stop eating that. People actually criticize you. They make you feel bad for picking out, for wanting to eat healthier.
Yes.
So when you go to the family dinners, oh, we got salad for you.
Mm-hmm.
And you're like, damn, bro, I thought y'all want me to live. Why are y'all taking this personal about what I eat, what I'm putting in my body? Why can't you accommodate? How does families kind of help to, you know, make sure that they don't break up because a person simply wanted to learn how to eat better and sustain themselves longer?
You know, I think it's a way that, so you're talking about a very adult decision when you decide to whether cut out certain foods or become a vegetarian, vegan, what have you. And sometimes adult decisions, and you're a young person, can be hard for your family to take on because first of all, they still don't see you as an adult as it is, right?
Mm.
Then you're coming in and you are rejecting part of what food is important in our culture. And so for you to say, yeah, I don't want that anymore, sometimes they take it personally. And the conversation, we're not even talking about food anymore. They're taking it as if you're rejecting them and what they've given you and how they've raised you. And so I have to say that it needs to be careful on both sides. I'm not talking about anorexia. I'm not talking about eating disorders. I'm talking about people that are making conscious food choices based on what's best for their body, that we need to be sensitive to the fact that family members may take it personally. I have been in that situation. I have allergy to peaches. And when I had more distant family members learn, you know, that I said, hey, I can't have the peach cobbler, they looked at me like, oh, you think you're somebody. I was literally attacked.
Wow.
And I was like, okay,
wow.
I mean, like, what do you want me to do? You know, but they took it as, oh, that you've gotten older and now you think you're an adult and now you think you can't eat this anymore. And that's just an allergy, like a bona fide in the medical, that's an allergy, let alone when you're making choices that simply feel better for your body. And so sometimes it's a form of that they feel that you're rejecting them. Sometimes it's a control issue, not for the person necessarily that's choosing to be the vegetarian, which it could be or not. It might just be a life choice. But if you are now deciding how you're going to eat and you are coming from a controlling environment, Now that now you're bucking against the system of someone that wants to control you. So whether that is a spouse, whether that is a family member, sometimes you're bucking out of their control, and now you might have even more issues.
Damn.
And that's real. I've definitely seen that. And it has nothing to do with what you're eating. It's about someone feeling like you're pushing away from their control. And that means it's time to get some room in there. It's time for a little space. Because if
absolutely.
It's responding like that because you don't want to eat meat or whatever it is that you've chosen not to partake in, then and it's not about the food, it's about their control, then you probably need to back off more than just from the table, right? You need to back up probably in some other ways too. That's a red flag.
Huge red flag. Folks, we got to take a quick pause. When we come forward, more conversation, more thoughts. I'm going to share what more of you are saying about this issue of eating disorders and how it's much more common in the Black community than you and I would like to think. We'll continue the conversation with our very own Dr. Bridget, MD, and of course with you. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, there's a difference between Black Star Network and Black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be Black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in Black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause. Too long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in Black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been chatting with our very own Dr. Bridget, MD, talking about eating disorders, how it's much more common in the Black community than many of us may think. And so I want to get back to what the good doctor is talking about as we're looking at the issue of eating disorders being on the rise, particularly among Black college students, Black girls, college students, and how we can start to stem the tide around this situation. It's not just about food either, folks. It's actually about nutrition. It's actually about community. It's actually about awareness that this is happening. And so as we're getting, I'm sure colleges will be kicking off next week and then all across this country, making sure that you create a safe space for your college age student, for your college age son, daughter, niece or nephew, grandson, granddaughter, to make sure that they understand that they don't have to put themselves under so much stress, so much pressure, that they lose sight of the importance and the value of good nutrition and having something to eat, folks. All right, let me bring Dr. Bridget back into the frame, and let me share what folks are saying about this, Doc, because again, I think this is too important for us not to talk about. Anastasia Pageant, you've been very vocal in the chat, and I appreciate you. So thank you so much. Let me just share with one of the comments you brought up. You said we need to tell our children that they are beautiful, and the scale that you weigh yourself on was made for the white community, not the Moor community. Same as the medicine we take, everything is for them. How do we have that conversation? So Doc, she's saying, tell them they're beautiful. Don't look at this. Don't worry about the scale. Now, on the flip side of that, I'm gonna just add a little caveat to Anastasia's point that social media is real, and people are very influenced by their favorite performer, what they see. They are very aware, but especially girls. Girls are very aware. Black girls are very aware of the standards of beauty that the culture presents to them. And they match themselves up to their standard of beauty, whether it comes from social media or whether it's coming from magazines or whether it's coming from, the talk about what is beautiful with family and friends. So we can tell them, every day. I'm sure you tell your daughter. I'm sure I tell my daughter every day, you're beautiful. But I know that as my daughter, she's 4, she grow up, she's going to be in conflict about her sense of beauty, even though her daddy, her mommy, and her brother tell her how great and beautiful and wonderful she really is. There's that little part of her that's going to say, but I'm not as beautiful as. So what can we do there now?
I mean, what you're really talking about now is really focusing on solid self-esteem and making sure that as a parent, you're part of the solution and not a part of the problem. So it's not just telling your child that they're beautiful, but it's also walking the walk. Don't go and tell your child that that they're beautiful while you're popping over-the-counter diet pills right in front of their face, or complaining about, oh, this doesn't fit, that, because that's what they see, that's what they're exhibiting, right? If you can exhibit, hey, let's all go out for a walk. Okay. Hey, let's make sure that we have healthy food on our plate. Is our plate colorful? This is how we should eat. Those are positive things that they will then pick up on. But because they will pay more attention to, the kid in the class that says that they're either ugly or beautiful than sometimes their parents saying it. But they will pay attention to your behavior. And can you exhibit and be the example of what healthiness looks like? And that will have a lasting effect.
And I think that is why we don't talk about this.
I mean, it's a hard road. Parenting is not for the weak. And so
no, it isn't, Doc. And since you brought that up, no, go ahead. I'm listening. You're right. Yeah, it's absolutely right.
It's not for the weak. It's not. It will rip you up and tear you down, right? But you have to know what your goals are for your child. And honestly, good parenting should make you a better person. 100%. Good parenting should make you a better person. And so if you can dig into that, then and make that your challenge, then I think you'll do great by your kids as well.
Absolutely. Taylor, you checked in and said people comment out loud when people return home on college breaks 10 to 15 pounds heavier than when they left home. That affects people.
It does. I remember it clear. I remember the clothes I was wearing that day. I remember being picked up from college that first time and hearing those comments from my mom and my grandmother and my brother, from everybody, because I ate a lot of peanut butter. It was easy. Okay. And I remember that but I will tell you that my daughter did not experience that. I was going to make sure of that. And so, yes, we do make that mistake, and we have to be strong enough in ourselves to realize what is really important. Because at the end of the day, this is just our shell. Are we building up their self-esteem? Are we building up that they are capable, strong-minded human beings? And the shell is just what we have to carry around. Let's not make it more baggage by making them hate the body that they're in.
Whew. That's a word there, Dr. Bridget. To hate, make them hate the body that they're in.
Yeah. It's hard enough, you know.
And you know what's crazy? I mean, imagine if your mother is saying it to you. And you're like, I didn't, as Tupac said, I was brought into this world, I didn't make it.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? Like, how do you get mad at your child for something that they learned at home? Y'all hear that? Y'all catch that? Y'all catch that, crew? Because that's what we do. We blast the child for habits that they picked up from home.
I see that. I see parents come in or even issues at school where the child acts like a bully and they're saying this or saying that, and the parents acting like, I don't know where this is coming from, blah, blah, blah. But then the parent is off the hook and have the same behavior right in front of me. And I'm like, y'all don't see this? Like, you see this, right? Like, this is where your child's getting it from. Parenting should make you a better person, not a perfect person. So don't get it confused. Nor would I put that pressure. Look, we're talking about taking some of the pressure off and creating balance. Parenting should not make you a perfect person, but it should make you a better person. And we need to be protective of our children. We need to hear not only just what they are saying, but hearing in between the lines of what they're not saying. That's
absolutely
patience, and that takes time and investment. And be willing to deal with the hard stuff. And a lot of times when we're busy people and we're just trying to keep this family thing going and just trying to keep, the lights on, it's hard to hear what's not being said. It's hard to address the hard things, but we've got to make time for it.
Absolutely. Nicole, you checked in, my sister. You said, as I've gotten older, I realized that eating disorders are not just about the physical, but mental and emotional as well. In my 20s, I would skip breakfast and lunch, then overeat at dinner. Mm-hmm. Is that a bad thing to do, Doc?
Well, it's definitely a bad habit, right? So I wouldn't necessarily put that, unless, depending on what the mindset was going into it, I wouldn't necessarily put that into an eating disorder, but probably a bad eating habit, right? So that, but if your mindset is creating some level of control in doing that, and that it becomes an ongoing behavior being restrictive, then it might be an issue. So eating disorders are very complex because there's a lot of bad habits, but all bad habits are not an eating disorder. Okay. So let's say you're avoiding breakfast and you're avoiding lunch, but you're overeating at dinner. But are you then purging? Are you doing rumination where people will chew food and then spit it out? Because what is your goal at the end of the day? Are you trying to have control? Are you trying to lose weight? Is this your way of dealing with your stressors? So sometimes we use blanket statements and we're not really talking about the same thing. But it's probably not the best habit, but I mean, I know a lot of people that aren't hungry in the morning, but having nutrition is really important.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Audrey, let me get one more in before we take our next pause. Audrey Q73, you said the biggest problem with eating disorders is that a lot of people who suffer from disordered eating do not admit that they have a problem. It is an addiction and must be recognized as such. That puts it into a different category from what I'm understanding.
It is definitely. So keep in mind, this is a mental health disorder. Okay. This is not just something you're coming up with. Like I said, we all have a different breaking point, and this is a form of someone's breaking point. And so we're not just saying, well, I'm just going to do this because I think it's going to make me gain or lose weight. It becomes something that is out of your control. Okay. Because if it was simply a matter of don't do that, then people would just stop. But it ends up being something that is consuming. It is overwhelming. So I understand her using the word addiction, because meaning that it is out of your control at that point. And that's why and they are horribly difficult to treat, because it's basically you're putting a mirror in front of someone and saying the person that you're seeing is not the person that you think. Well, people are like, well, something's wrong with, what do? You're like, something's wrong with everybody else because I know what I see. Right. And it is, wait, this is my best way of functioning in this world. Do not take this away from me. They can be incredible, like particularly anorexia nervosa can be incredibly manipulating because they are determined to do what they're going to do. And this is why, as you had stated earlier, why it is one of the most deadly mental health disorders, only second to opioid addiction.
Wow. Folks, we got to take another quick pause. When we come forward, some final remarks from Dr. Bridget, MD, and you. So stay with us. It's The Culture here on the Black Star Network.
Black Star Network is here.
Oh, no punch! I'm real revolutionary right now.
Thank you for being the voice of Black America.
All momentum we have now, we have to keep this going.
The video looks phenomenal.
See, this difference between Black Star Network and black-owned media and something like CNN.
You can't be black-owned media and be scared.
It's time to be smart.
Bring your eyeballs home.
You dig?
When you talk about blackness and what happens in black culture, we're about covering these things that matter to us, speaking to our issues and concerns.
This is a genuine people-powered movement.
There's a lot of stuff that we're not getting. You get it, and you spread the word.
We wish to plead our own cause to long have others spoken for us. We cannot tell our own story if we can't pay for it.
This is about covering us.
Invest in black-owned media.
Your dollars matter. We don't have to keep asking them to cover our stuff. So please support us in what we do, folks.
We want to hit 2,000 people, $50 this month, raise $100,000. We're behind 100,000, so we want to hit that. Y'all money makes this possible.
Checks and money orders go to P.O. Box 57196, Washington, D.C. 20037-0196. The Cash App is $RM Unfiltered. PayPal is R Martin Unfiltered. Venmo is RM Unfiltered. Zelle is Roland at RolandSMartin.com.
All right, folks, welcome back to The Culture here on the Black Star Network. We've been talking to Dr. Bridget, MD, for Reclaim Your Wellness segment this week, where we're talking about eating disorders and how it's much more common than you may think, especially within the Black community. And guess what? According to some of the latest data and research, it shows that Black community, those who suffer from eating disorders, are significantly less likely to receive the help that they need. Let's bring Dr. Bridget back into the frame as I'm getting more comments from our online culture crew about this. And Doc, people are kind of going back into, doing like a little reflection to realize, like, man, when I was growing up, this was the attitude around food. This is the culture about eating. And now I had to make some significant changes. And, I think, we're all adults here. We all going to have to deal with whatever naysayers are in our family have to say. But like my sister Karen Connor said, that she was always ostracized about eating healthy by people in her family. And then those family members, unfortunately, passed away because of bad food choices. Mm-hmm. And so it's like we're in this place within our families and everything where it just becomes this. It's like you moving a mountain just because you decide that you want to do something different outside of the norm of control, as you spoke about earlier with eating. So it's still, I'm saying that to say, it's very, very sad that that's the case. That's the way our culture is, and that's the way our family lives are at this moment.
Well, having this conversation, I think, means a lot because this is something that's unseen for us, that we definitely need to bring this to the forefront. I think for us as Black people, the idea of even having this eating disorder because of the stereotypes, I think it's pretty embarrassing. I feel like the white community kind of looks for it and they expect it, and the doctor's looking for it, and what have you. And I feel like for us, it goes unseen. And keep in mind that we're coming from a place where we've had to pull together the scraps of whatever we could pull together to feed our families. And the idea of not eating is an issue, right? Because we're doing the best we can. So we end up with people that are binging and overeating and then purging it and hiding it. And we have to be more open to the fact that as we get more and more opportunities in this country, the more that we're put into situations where we have to adjust to the overwhelming culture. And Black women do that more than probably anyone, because we have to adapt to white culture. We have to adapt to being in the workplace with more men sometimes. We have to adapt to, as women, adjusting and dealing with all sorts of socioeconomic issues that we're being picked apart in every which way you can possibly imagine. And sometimes this is the only thing that they have left.
Right.
And so we have to do better. There are some books out there that can be helpful. I do recommend finding a Black therapist to help you work through this, or your child to work through this. And as a parent, be the listener. Listen for things that you've not actually looked for before, and make sure you're that encouraging model for your child so that they don't. And if they are on a slippery slope, be open enough that they can come to you for help.
What are some of the resources and books and even websites, Doc, that we can go to, folks can go to get more information about how to become much more knowledgeable, compassionate, and essentially change the culture of how we're having these conversations and how we're handling this whole thing?
Absolutely. So the first one I would recommend is the Appetite Awareness Workbook. It's by Linda Craighead. Definitely worth looking up to kind of dig into what our habits may be and what issues might be developing. And then another one is by Christopher Fairburn, which is Overcoming Binge Eating, which is, again, tends to be more where Black Americans end up fitting in when they end up slipping into the space. There's also support groups that are out there. And so, but the support group is a great place to go, but let's not bypass getting that therapist. That might make a huge difference as well.
That's huge. The ABX girl, you said, I came from a heavy family and my mother made sure I had some type of fitness routine like dance lessons. I now found fitness very important and have completed triathlons decades later. That's what's up, the ABX girl. That's what's up. So now we got to throw in some fitness as well. Get up, get out and do something.
Absolutely.
That's what I'm hearing from her, Doc.
Absolutely. And make it a positive aspect, not a punitive aspect of health, right? So sometimes our parents put us in these situations saying, look at you, look how fat you are, get out there and start running, get out there and do this class, or they could say, I want you to love your body and be healthy in it. And part of it for everybody is physical activity. And here are some activities that you can do. So there are two different attitudes that go into that. Keep in mind that the anorexic patient is doing excessive exercise. And so you have to be mindful of, if you see your child slipping into something that seems a little bit more than necessary, or when you say pull back, they say, they're bucking that the whole time. Be aware of what's happening around you.
That's a great point. Doc, I always enjoy talking to you, but this conversation, I felt like we just needed to shed a lot of light on and to kind of dispel a lot of the myths around this. Are you going to be doing today an after chat on this or what?
Yes, I'll do an after chat and we'll talk about this, but we'll also just make it open for Ask the Doctor at 5:30 Eastern tonight. And my last statement, check on your strong Black woman, because they're most likely to have this issue. Check on her.
There it is right there. Folks, y'all can follow Dr. Bridget Cole-Williams on all social media platforms, Dr. Bridget MD. She's a family physician. She's a cannabis expert. She's an entrepreneur, and she's an author of the book Courage in Cannabis, Volume 1. Volume 2 dropped just recently as well. So make sure y'all pick up that book where you can hear the stories of those who have benefited from cannabis medicine and more. So again, folks, we appreciate Dr. Bridget for coming on each week here on The Culture on Mondays. You can find her on her segment, Reclaim Your Wellness with Dr. Bridget MD. Doc, thank you so much for being so good for the culture.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Farajii.
You're welcome. You're welcome. All right, folks, that's going to do it for us. I thank all of you. I want to thank my dynamic production team. I want to thank my man, King Keenan. I want to thank Shannon. I want to thank Chris, Maddie, and Joel for making this show possible. Folks, make sure you do your due diligence. Continue to support us here at Black Star Network, Black Star Network, Black Star Network. Go to our website today at blackstarnetwork.com. Download the app for free. Share it on with all of your family and friends. Download the apps on all of your devices. Follow us on social media at Black Star Network. And of course, we would love to have your financial support. So that way we don't have to rely on other people to have unfiltered, culturally relevant conversations such as this one and others that we've had in the past. So again, go to blackstarnetwork.com. Also, make sure you do your due diligence and follow me. Yours truly, Farajii Muhammad. I can be found on Twitter at Farajii, on Facebook at Farajii Muhammad, and on Instagram at The Real Farajii. And we always sharing something or just at least talking about something. But I would just love to connect with you if you enjoyed the show. Folks, I got to share with you maybe the next couple of days, I'm getting some information together, but went to this dope ass reparations rally here in Los Angeles. So we got to talk a little bit more about this. I also want to continue the conversation this week about how is Black Montgomery is doing. We have more voices that want to jump in on the conversation after what has happened at the dock in Montgomery, Alabama, and how more folks are reacting and how the city is handling the situation. So we will have more conversations like that later on this week, God willing. So that you can take just look forward to that. But I thank each and every one of you. Thank you, crew, for making the show as great as it is, because your feedback means everything to us. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Folks, stay tuned. Up next is Roland Martin Unfiltered, 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. We're streaming all the time. Make sure you stay informed and up to date on all the latest streams, whether we just streamed the piece that Roland did in Alabama. Fantastic message he put out there. We streaming what happened in Chicago with the new mayor and him bringing a new black chief of police into the force. So a lot of things are happening. Stay streaming on all of our platforms. As always, never be afraid to challenge what's wrong. Stand for what's right while being yourself in the process. God willing, we will talk tomorrow for another exciting edition of The Culture right here, exclusively here, only here on the Black Star Network. Peace.